Welcome to True Vine Ministries Talk Show, a place of faith, hope, and love. I'm your talk show host, Pastor Rhetta Jackson Fear. Today we have a great show scheduled for you. Today we are going to have our very own Councilman Terrance Turnbach, the Councilman of Toms River, New Jersey, joining us. We are going to discuss everything from Black Lives Matters to justice for George Floyd, as well as Toms River, New Jersey becoming a non-sanctuary city. Stay with us for a great show on today when we return after these commercials. Hello, my name is Pastor Rhetta Jackson Fear, and I am the Senior Pastor of True Vine Healing and Deliverance Ministries. I would just like to invite you out to True Vine if you're looking for a church home or a church family. True Vine is truly a place where Jesus is the true vine and we are the branches. It is also a place where much fruit is produced as we remain in Him and Him in us. We are located at 1 South Main Street, South Toms River, New Jersey. Come on by. Thank you so much for returning to our show on today. As I stated earlier, True Vine is a place of faith, hope, and love. And on today, spreading some faith, hope, and love, joining us is none other than our Councilman Terrance Turnbach, the Councilman of Toms River, New Jersey. Amen. So, Terrance, we welcome you to our show.
Thank you, Pastor Rhetta. Pleasure to be here.
Yes, it is. The pleasure is all mine. And once again, I thank you for accepting our opportunity to be with us today.
Always be here.
Yes. So we are going to dive right into the show. Councilman Terrance, how long have you been in office?
Since 2018. So, 2.5 years.
2.5 years. Wow. And exactly what inspired you to run for office?
That's a little bit of a story. So, I was in my office on a Sunday afternoon. I work a lot of Sunday afternoons. I'm a lawyer by trade. And I work Sunday afternoons so people don't have to miss work and come in and see me. And my law partner, Kevin Starkey, said that we need someone in your ward to run. We're looking for somebody. Would you consider just putting your name on the ballot till we find somebody?
Yes.
I thought about it and I said, sure, you can put my name on the ballot and then you let me know when you found who you want to run for Ward 4 and
Yes.
I'll step aside and put my name on the ballot. And then I started having people come up to me saying, we're excited that you're running for office.
Wow.
And I started to feel a certain responsibility to uphold what I had put on that ballot.
Yes.
So it wasn't something I had seen coming. It wasn't something that I had said, hey, I want to do this. But I'm so thankful that I did, honestly.
Amen. So the name originally was put on the ballot just until
you could say I was a placeholder.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
the truth.
Well, after you decided that you were in this for the long haul, what accomplishments did you set out to make?
When you first get on the council, a lot of it's a learning experience. So there's a learning curve to being on the council. So you're just trying to understand your role and what you can do and what you can accomplish. And,
Yes.
and you're really trying to also establish relationships of trust with the people on the council to know that I'm in this for the right reason. I'm not in this for political advancement. I'm in this to better our town, make sure that all the voices in our town are heard,
Yes.
and move forward. And I'm not in this to consider it a job for the rest of my life. I'm in it. I believe in term limits. I believe there should be the ability for multiple people to serve.
Yes.
So as far as accomplishments, what I set out in the beginning it was really learning about the township, learning what we could do to improve the township, and making sure that all of the voices in our township are heard, not either political party that's represented.
Yes, yes. And with that being said, what accomplishments do you feel that you and your team have made since you've come into office?
Sure. The accomplishment, obviously, that I'm most proud of is the statewide change in the Code Blue laws.
Yes.
So early on, we saw an issue with regard to the homeless in Toms River. It touched my heart. I read an article in the Asbury Park Press regarding a church, the Assembly of God on Bay Avenue,
Yes.
that
yes.
was housing the homeless in their basement. And I called Paul Host, Pastor Paul, and said, "Can I come out and see what you're doing?"
Yes.
And I called Councilwoman Terrance, and she met me out there, and it touched me, and it really inspired me. And the Code Blue is a program that's set up from November through March.
Yes.
And originally it was set up if it was 32 degrees and snowing, then the shelters were opened up to house the homeless.
Yes.
But if it wasn't snowing, the temperature was 25 degrees. So Christmas Day of 2018, Christmas Eve, it was 24 degrees. The Code Blue program was open.
Okay.
We housed a number of people. Christmas Day, I went there to provide some gifts to the homeless, and we were closed because the temperature had risen to 27 degrees. It's freezing.
Yes.
It's not humane to me. So
Yes.
we worked in Toms River to pass an ordinance, and then we went statewide. And,
Yes.
I'm proud to say we changed the law in the state of New Jersey so that all shelters must open at 32 degrees, so that the homeless aren't sitting out on 31-degree nights, 30-degree nights, 29 degrees, because it's not 25 degrees.
Yes, and that's a great accomplishment. That's because, as the councilman said, it's still very cold out.
It's freezing.
Okay.
Below freezing is below freezing. And the
Yes,
bottom line
yes.
is it's those type of things you can do on the council to improve others.
Yes.
That's what I love about this.
Most certainly, most certainly. And I was so happy to be a part of that. I was there the day at Town Hall for that meeting where Councilman Turnbach and his team was able to make that great change for our homeless community.
We appreciate you've been a part of a lot of the great change.
It is my pleasure. It is my pleasure. I just want to make a little turn here. On November 25th, 2019, I believe it was, we all showed up at Town Hall.
Yes.
And at that time, and correct me if I'm wrong, Toms River was a was a sanctuary city.
So I think it was September 25th of 2019, and the only
Correct.
reason I know that is because it was during the course of an election.
Yes.
And there was a resolution placed on the agenda to support New Jersey not being a sanctuary state.
Yes.
And I voted against that for a number of reasons, Pastor Rhetta. One, I felt honestly that the resolution was political in nature, that it was placed on the agenda at a point in time where there was an election in Toms River.
Okay.
And it was designed to push a false narrative and rally a base of people.
Okay.
And that's not our role on the Township Council.
That's right.
Our role in the Township Council is to represent everybody.
Yes.
The idea of a sanctuary state in New Jersey is also, in my mind, somewhat of a false narrative. We have something called an Immigrant Trust Directive from the Attorney General's office.
Okay.
If you read that trust directive, you're going to see just on page 2 that the Attorney General speaks of a sanctuary state.
Okay.
And people speak of a sanctuary state as, well, that means anyone that's here legally can come in and commit whatever crimes they want to commit, and then they're not going to be prosecuted. And
Yes.
that's completely false.
Okay.
Anyone that commits a crime in the state of New Jersey is going to be prosecuted,
Correct.
whether you're here legally or illegally.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with the idea of the false narrative of the sanctuary state is it makes people that are here maybe without their visa or illegally,
Mm-hmm.
it keeps them in the shadows. We
Okay.
have law-abiding people that have come into this country illegal, but they go to
Yes.
work every day and they contribute to this community every day, and they pay their taxes,
Correct.
and we want those individuals to feel comfortable.
Yes.
We want them to feel part of the community.
That's
We should
right.
be working to help them become legal
That's right.
by pushing this. We don't want to be a sanctuary state again. It's a rally of a base, but it's also driving people into the shadows. And what does that do? Causes people not to report crime, right?
Yes.
Causes people not to want to cooperate with the police because they're afraid that I'm going to report something, but more importantly, I may be removed from my family.
Correct.
I was so proud that you had come out that night and spoken, and unfortunately the vote went 5-2.
Yes,
but
it did.
I stand by my vote. I always will stand by my vote because that's not our role on the
That's
council.
right.
Our role
That's
is not
right.
political, it's to represent the people.
That's right. Amen. So, as the councilman stated, the vote was to make Toms River a non-sanctuary city, and many of us were opposed to it. Nonetheless, that's what it is, and I like, Councilman, how you ended with the fact that your vote was your vote, and you're going to still stand by
Absolutely.
that. Yes.
My
yes.
vote will never be political.
That's
To do
right.
what's right.
That's right. It's for humanity, for everyone to be treated right. So we're going to return in a moment. We're going to go to commercial, and when we return, we'll be back with Councilman Terrance Turnbach. Hello, my name is Pastor Rhetta Jackson Fair, and I am the senior pastor of True Vine Healing and Deliverance Ministries. I would just like to invite you out to True Vine if you're looking for a church home or a church family. True Vine is truly a place where Jesus is the true vine and we are the branches. It is also a place where much fruit is produced as we remain in Him and Him in us. We are located at 1 South Main Street, South Toms River, New Jersey. Come on by. Welcome back to True Vine Ministries Talk Show. Still with us is Councilman Terrance Turnbach, and we were just previously discussing Toms River, New Jersey becoming a non-sanctuary city, and still in line with that discussion, Councilman, I would like to ask you, with Toms River becoming a non-sanctuary city, would that play a role in any racial tension or racial profiling in our community?
It certainly could, and it's always a concern. And again, that's why the idea of this as a false narrative is so dangerous, right?
Yes.
Because you're putting out something to rally a base of people for support, which isn't our role.
Okay.
And the issue becomes, in this particular instance, obviously there's a large focus on the Hispanic community. Toms River has a large Hispanic community. They're genuine, loving members of our community that we should be
Yes.
out there supporting,
Yes.
not driving into the shadows. So certainly it can create tension because it's going to make that Hispanic community feel not part of the community,
Yes.
right? It's going to make them feel like, yes, we contribute, yes, we go to work, yes, we're part of the churches, but when it comes time to it, you're not going to support us, the police aren't going to support us, and nothing could be further from the truth. If you speak to the police department, they know, they understand the Immigrant
Yes.
Trust Directive,
Yes.
but it certainly can lead to incidents where there's a focus on race as opposed to being who's this member of our community. Certainly.
Correct.
So again, another reason why we should never have that.
Most certainly, most certainly. Now, with everything that's going on in our community, there's been some police brutality and misuse of restraints and racial profiling. Toms River has been one of the many communities that have gotten together and put together a protest for Black Lives Matter, as well as justice for George Floyd. On June 2nd of this year, over 200 protesters, as well as our councilmen and some of our fine police officers, gathered in Kohl's Shopping Center on Route 37 here in Toms River, New Jersey. And I was very happy to be a part of that. I was one of the vendors that set up a table and gave out food and drinks after the march. But with that being said, Councilman Turnbach, how was your experience with that protest, and was it your first protest?
Yes, it was my first protest, and I would say my experience, probably the most moving thing I've been involved in this year, honestly. When the peaceful protest was organized by a woman named Katrina Garcia.
Yes.
And it was organized pretty quickly online.
Mm-hmm.
So I will tell you, Pastor Rhetta, when I first went up, I didn't really know what to expect.
Yes.
Right? Everybody wanted things to be peaceful, to get the message across.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very proud of Miss Garcia. I just met her.
Yes.
But she immediately emphasized that to the people that had gathered, that
Mm-hmm.
we're here for a peaceful message. I was very proud of our police chief, Mitch Little,
Yes.
Deputy Chief Mike Belcher, Ocean County Prosecutor Brad Billheimer was there,
Yes.
Warden Sandra Muller, and Deputy Warden Joe Valenti were there to walk and support. And I thought that was very important, right, to
Yes.
see that our police force and our community are together. We began walking the Kohl's Plaza,
Mm-hmm.
and as Jamal Holmes was indicating, say his name, and
Yes.
the answer being George Floyd,
Yes.
honestly, the bell went off for me. Right? I got chills,
Yes.
got the lump in my throat, my eyes welled, and I really began to awaken to what others are experiencing
Yes.
in our country. And it was very powerful to be a part of something like that.
Yes.
Very important. You know, you may not see those issues day in and day out in Toms River. And
Yes.
we work to not have those issues.
Correct.
But it's important, no matter where you are, for that message to get out, and it's important to have that message of unity. And the picture I love is our chief and our deputy chief and Miss Garcia walking, holding that banner at the
Yes.
front, because it's really a proud moment for Toms River, something that we
Yes.
need to have more of.
Yes, I do agree. You know, I had an experience also, and my experience started even before the protests, you know, just seeing other protests on the news and things like that. And, you know, my heart broke when there was looting and the disrespect for officers and things like that. My heart definitely broke watching the news of George Floyd, you know, being murdered, of course, as well as many others. And, you know, as a human race, we know that there is a better way to handle both sides, you know, with, you know, police using unnecessary restraints, but also the way that we respond to hurt and anger. And my first experience watching the protest on the news was I was torn, you know, as an African American woman and as a mother with African American boys. You know, you want to be protective because you teach your children, you know, what not to do to get in trouble, but it's nothing that you can really teach them on how to protect themselves against the color of their skin.
Sure.
Like, you never think of, you know, anything like that. So in speaking in reference to the Toms River protest, you know, my experience was mixed emotions, you know, as an African American woman and then a mother of two African American boys. You know, you want to be protective. But then as a resident of Toms River that loves her community, you want to be overprotective of your community. So I had mixed emotions about going to the protest, in all honesty. And what I did was I showed up on Main Street with my bag of goodies because I love feeding people. And I stood and watched, and you all had already marched to the courthouse, and some of them were on the way back toward Coles. And I just began giving out water to the different people. And this gentleman, Caucasian, older guy, he says to me as I hand him the bottle of water, he says, "When is this going to end?" He said, "Do you know that I've been marching in protests like this for over 40 years?" And Councilman, that broke my heart.
Warmed it, right?
Yes, it did. And then to see all of the different ethnicities and different age brackets of people that were involved in the protest, it was just the biggest day of unity that I have ever experienced.
I agree.
Yes, so I understand exactly, what you were saying in reference to your experience with the protest.
And there's power in what you're saying as well, Pastor, because part of it is beautiful, what the man said to you, but part of it is we've got to start to really advance and do something where we don't want to have any more of these.
Yes.
We don't want to have a reason for these protests anymore. We want to learn and advance.
That is correct.
So,
and that gentleman
that
that said that, he even had tears in his eyes. And so, you get mixed emotions, but I thank God that Toms River protest was peaceful.
Yes.
And it was powerful. And because of all of the diversity and the unity, I believe it's going to be very effective.
I agree. And I believe it's a starting point.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So we'll be right back with more talk from our Councilman Terrance Turnbach. When we return, we are going to continue discussing the protest. Join us in a moment. Hello, my name is Pastor Rhetta Jackson Fair, and I am the senior pastor of True Vine Healing and Deliverance Ministries. I would just like to invite you out to True Vine if you're looking for a church home or a church family. True Vine is truly a place where Jesus is the true vine and we are the branches. It is also a place where much fruit is produced as we remain in Him and Him in us. We are located at 1 South Main Street, South Toms River, New Jersey. Come on by. Welcome back to our show. Still with us today is Councilman Terrance Turnbach. Once again, we thank you for being with us through all of our 3 segments.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much. Before we went to the break, we were just discussing the peaceful protest here in Toms River, New Jersey, put together by Katrina. And Councilman Terrance Turnbach was one of those that marched in the protest. And after Councilman Turnbach's experience with his very first protest, this is what he wrote. It touched my heart. It says, "I have been a lawyer for 18 years, taken classes solely focused on constitutional law, and I have made my fair share of constitutional arguments before many courts in this state. Until last Tuesday, when I marched in the peaceful protest for George Floyd here in Toms River, I thought I completely understood the Equal Protection Clause of the United States Constitution. Yet, as we marched down Main Street and shouted George Floyd in response to calls to say his name, I was awakened to the fact that all I know about equal protection is what I see as a white male. I was awakened to the fact that equal protection is not always applied equally to my friends and family that are black. 152 years later, a constitutional amendment designed to equally protect black Americans is failing to do what the framers intended. The only way we are going to change this is to open our eyes to what other fellow Americans experience and push for protection under the law that is truly equal. It is always time to see a person and not the color of a man's skin. When I read this morning, I was bawling. Councilman, can you tell me what was going through your mind when you wrote this?
Certainly, Pastor. It was really written after the experience in the protest, and just I felt that emotion.
Yes.
I felt the chill, and I knew that things have to change.
Yes.
Right? And in life, you look at life and you base life on experiences, but they're your experiences.
Yes.
And it really woke me up to say, I haven't experienced the same things in life as my friends and family that are black. I haven't. And it gave me an appreciation that we've got to open our eyes and our ears to see. We have to listen and see what's going on and make those changes. Really, it's past time. In 1868 was the Equal Protection Clause in the United States Constitution.
Yes.
It was crafted and drafted because we were coming out of slavery.
Yes.
And states were discriminating against black Americans.
Yes.
That's why we have the Equal Protection Clause.
Yes.
And 152 years later, we haven't achieved what the goal was.
Yes.
And we've got to look at why. And the only way we're going to do it is, again, to see what other people are going through.
That is correct.
And move forward and advance. And Pastor Rhetta, it starts at home.
Yes, it does.
Right? It starts with what we're teaching our children.
Yes.
It starts in the churches.
That is correct.
And pushing the message along that racism of any sort in this country is unacceptable.
That
unacceptable.
Is correct.
And it's something we can change.
Yes.
No doubt about it. It shouldn't take George Floyd to change it.
That is correct.
Right?
Or the loss of any life for that matter.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So it's something that long ago our country recognized we needed to do, but we haven't achieved it yet. And
Yes.
we can't give up. We've got to push forward and make the changes that we know we can make to achieve it.
Yes, that is correct. Well, my final question for you today is going to be, how can we as residents partner with the council to bring forth the changes, and is there any more that the council can do to better the laws, or what's going on with racial tension, racial profiling, and things
Absolutely.
of that nature?
So I think that the peaceful protest was an important first step
Yes.
in the process, but there has to be more steps.
Yes.
So in my mind, what is the next step? My feeling is that we really should put together a town hall where our community can come together and have an open dialogue about these issues,
Yes.
right? Because they're important topics to discuss, but they're also important topics for people to have an understanding of, right?
Yes.
To have a dialogue where you can open someone's mind to say, I didn't see it that way, or I didn't
Yes.
think about it that way. And in that town hall, I think it's going to be very important to have representatives of all of our faith-based churches,
Yes.
of all of our communities, and our law enforcement.
Yes.
I spoke with Ocean County Prosecutor Brad Billheimer. He's in favor of attending this. I will speak to
Yes.
our chief to make sure he attends, but I think that's the next step in the process. Okay?
Yes.
And I think from the council's perspective and from our law enforcement perspective, it's important to be involved in our
Yes.
community, to be out there,
Yes.
to develop relationships. I feel that Chief Little has done a very good job in starting that process with
Mhm.
Toms River United.
Yes.
We were the first municipality in Ocean County that has a group that's brought together faith-based leaders and the council and the police to try and gain that understanding.
Yes.
I've been at meetings where now other townships in Ocean County are attempting to do that. So we have the right leadership in place,
Yes.
but again, it's going to be about coming together for open dialogue and education.
Most certainly. So those of you who are watching and asking, how can you bring about change? You have to get involved. Get involved with your community and see what's going on. Sometimes it's not a matter of having bad leaders into place, but it's about building relationships so that everyone's outlook, can matter. Everyone can come together and make a difference as a community together. Amen.
Everyone's voice can be heard.
And everyone's voice can be heard. And also, Councilman, I love how you all are including the churches now, because, and I'm going to end on this note, one of the things when I sit back and I look at any kind of hate crimes or disagreements or anything like that, I come to understand that we can change all of the laws that we can, but it does not change the outlook of a man's heart. And so that's where we need spirituality.
Absolutely.
That's where we need God involved, so that we can seek to understand each other differences and things like that, and come together, because we're more alike than we are different.
Absolutely. That's the message.
Yes, and so I'm glad you all are including the churches, and that the chief has a program going on like that. And I'm looking forward to being more involved.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Love having you. Amen.
Thank you, and thank you so much for coming to our show on today.
Always be here.
Thank you. Welcome back to our show. This will be the final segment of our show. In my closing, I just want to stress that all lives do matter, as you heard from Toms River Councilman Terrance Turnbach on today. And we are all, as citizens of the United States, working very hard to come together in unity and equality for all. As Councilman, said with tears in his eyes, he nor I had never experienced anything like this, but we were very, very grateful that Toms River had a peaceful protest, and that there has been justice for George Floyd and all of the others that have been racially profiled, and those where unnecessary restraints have been used on them. We know that this is not of God. And we also discussed, even though we're talking about changing laws and bettering communities, we also discussed that a law cannot change a man's heart, but only God can do that. And so now we have various churches that are getting more involved with their communities. And I, as the pastor of True Vine Healing and Deliverance Ministries, am going to be happy to get more involved with my community so that we can make sure that things like this never happens in our community. And as Councilman Terrance Turnbach stated, it starts with raising our children right in the home, that all lives do matter. We'll see you next week. God bless you.